gear, the speed. So we can totally take that home loss. But then to have 4 days off, you got a game on the 6th, and then your next game is on the 10th, and you're home for both of those games. To come out flat offensively the way they did against a crummy Oilers team who's towards the bottom of the league, and you got your backup goalie limiting the other guys who have a phenomenal superstar stud, like I said, in Connor McDavid, limiting them to 2 goals. If you're holding a crummy team to 2 goals on your home ice, you need to be winning that game, especially if you're competing for a playoff spot, which the Wild very much are at the moment. So that to me is like, what's up with that? Why do we stink on our home ice? Why can't we consistently be a good team at least? I'm not even saying we got to win all the games, obviously, but to just consistently play well even on our home ice. Losing 2-1 to a crappy team on your home ice, you didn't play well, or the score, the result would have been different. Okay. Now, the Wild do have Friday off here to hopefully recover from this loss, and then they go for a 3-game road trip, which should be good for us. We'll win 2 out of 3 or all 3 of them. The first one being the 12th, Saturday, pretty sure that is, and that is at the Montreal Canadiens, should be a win. Then the 15th at the Ottawa Senators, should be a win. And then the 17th at the New Jersey Devils, should be a win. That's a 50-50 game in my opinion. And then following that, we got the Hurricanes at home, and then back-to-back on the road the following night against our daddies, the Chicago Blackhawks. So next 4 games, all very winnable. That 5th game against the Blackhawks will be tough. Then we got the Kings after that. That'll be tough. Followed by Flames, Avalanche, and Blackhawks to close out the month of March. And that's going to be, this is key final push for your playoff time. And the Wild, as I mentioned, are very much in the hunt for a playoff spot. Now, the nice thing about the Wild's playoff battle is it really is with just one other team, straight up head-to-head with another team. The top 3 seeds in the Central Conference are pretty established. The top 3 seeds are in the division, in the Central Division. The top 3 seeds are pretty locked in who they're going to be. It's just a matter of what order. And the same holds true for the Pacific Division. And then the top of the 2 wild card spots is pretty much locked in by the Nashville Predators. So you've only got 1 playoff spot up for grabs, and there's only 2 teams really realistically, mathematically, that have a chance at it, and that's our Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche. Now, we do have 1 game in hand on the Colorado Avalanche. However, after tonight, the Colorado Avalanche are 2 points ahead of us. So we need to win that 1 game in hand to tie up with them once again for that 8th and final seed. So that will be, neck and neck for the remainder of the season. And as I mentioned, we've got the Avalanche coming up as one of our last regular season games here at the end, our second to last game at the end of March here. So that will be, expect that game to be huge as well. Unless for some reason the Wild downward spiral or the Avalanche downward spiral, but I would expect the Wild to be more likely to do it, to be quite honest with you. But I do not see that happening. Worst team in the Central is the Jets. They're the worst team in all of hockey they're the second worst team in all of hockey. They got 59 points. The worst team is the Toronto Maple Leafs with 55 points. We're going to have to check here, man. I can't wait until the regular season's done and we can check my preseason picks, because I think I was amazingly on for the most part. There was maybe 2 or 3 teams I didn't have a good handle on. The Blue Jackets and the Jets being, actually no, I think I did have the Jets being at the bottom. The Blue Jackets being the primary one there. But so anyway, out east, your top 3 seeds pretty much locked in again. In the Atlantic Division would be the Bruins, the Lightning, and the Panthers. That's a 1-point race with the Bruins at 84, but the Lightning and Panthers are both just 1 point behind, and with 2 games in hand on the Bruins. Capitals over in the Metropolitan Division, man, running away with the NHL. They have 103 points. Your next best team has 88, and that would be the Blackhawks and the Stars over in the West. So they're just crushing it. and they're followed by the Rangers and the Islanders. They're kind of all locked in at that top three there too. But then the two wild card spots in the East should be interesting. Right now you've got the Red Wings at the top spot with 77, followed by the Penguins with 76. But then trying to sneak their way in, you've got the Flyers and Hurricanes with 73 points. Canadians and Senators still mathematically in it at 70, and the Devils at 69. So plenty of action there as well. But that's all the time we got for Balls on Ice this week, unfortunately. But we got plenty of hockey talk every week here now on the show. And I don't know. I think I'm getting better at it. If you know hockey, if you like hockey, let me know. If there's things I need to correct in my hockey analysis, or if I'm doing a great job or whatever, let me know. Do that on Twitter at BDST Show, or send me a message on Facebook, Scotty-Ball. All right. So moving from Balls on Ice to Balls Dribble. And we'll start with college basketball, as the Minnesota Gophers are done with their season. They lost in the first round of the Big Ten Conference Tournament. No big surprise there. Big story with your Gopher basketball team is it sounds like the cell phone that was allegedly stolen from the player whose threesome sex tape had been posted on the internet. It appears that story was in fact legit, and the phone was stolen and it was posted without his consent or anything like that. So might change how people feel about the punishment that came down there. However, it is also being rumored right now, this hasn't been confirmed by any means, but it is being rumored that the young lady in the film did not consent in any way to it being recorded, and in fact was lied to about the fact that it was being recorded. But that has not been confirmed yet, but some juicy new details to keep our eyes and ears open to here in the future. But then, so we've got conference tournaments going on right now. We're in the second round, as I mentioned. I watched some Big Ten conference tournament earlier this evening. Some second round action. I want to say Michigan was crushing on whoever the heck it was they were playing. But so we've got all these conference tournaments going on now here in college basketball. We'll be determining who's into the tournament, March Madness tournament that is, and who's not in some cases. A lot of the automatic bids from the much, much smaller conferences have been determined. Their conferences are already done. Conference tournaments are done for the most part. So you can look that up if you'd like to find out. But all those teams are 12 through 16 seeds anyway, who tend to not go more than one or two rounds anyway. Now, my advice for this year, I'm not going to go too team specific, but when you're filling out your brackets this year, ride number ones. It would be a great plan to have number ones in your Final Four. We had all of them just a year or two ago, I want to say. It's becoming much more common for the number ones to advance to the finals than it was, for the majority of my life or childhood and early adulthood at least. And then also I saw a statistic that I thought was pretty telling. And I don't remember it exactly, but I'll just sum it up for you in a nutshell. This year has been one of the most back and forth, turmoil-ish, inconsistent performances for top 25 ranked teams in college basketball in recent memory. In all the years that they were able to compare, this season to that were similar to it, a number one seed in the tournament won the tournament all 6 years that they were able to find that were similar to this season. So combine both of those things, whoever the number ones end up to be, feel confident riding number ones into your Final Four bracket pool. But next week, I'm assuming that I should check on this. I'm not going to. So too bad. But I'm pretty sure that this coming Sunday is going to be Selection Sunday for the March Madness tournaments, which means we all have until next Thursday morning to fill out and submit our March Madness brackets to hopefully win a bunch of easy money. So I will definitely on next week's show be going through in great detail with you my bracket, my official bracket. I'll hopefully do more than one, but I will have an official one. Like these are my picks, no backing off of them. And I will make sure to share that with you and give you all the balls deep analysis from it that you could possibly stand on next week's episode. But let's get into a little bit of pro balls dribble and try and wrap this show up. And I don't know. Let's start with general league news. To me, the story all year has been the Warriors, the defending champs. They are currently a game ahead of pace, or at least a game ahead of the pace that the Chicago Bulls had set on their record-setting 72-10 win season. Warriors are one game up on them yet at this point in the year, and there's only 20-some games left to go. So, I mean, it is major, flirting with immortality in history time for us to keep an eye on. Every Warriors game from here on out the rest of the season is huge because it has historical implications, regardless of how it goes, whether they make it or not. It's historical implications. And I believe that since the last time we talked, they have either tied or broken the all-time record for consecutive home wins in a season. They've won 44, 45 home games in a row, something like that. It is absolutely insane. Now, but I can't say it enough. They run into Oklahoma in a best-of-7 series in the semifinals. They could lose that series. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying they could. And if they run into the San Antonio Spurs in the conference finals or the semifinals, I hope not, very, very possible. I'm not saying they will, but very, very possible they could lose that series. Then if they make it all the way to the NBA Finals and take on a healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team, very possible they lose that series. Not saying they're gonna or would, but just saying it's very possible. So despite how amazing they've been all year, it is going to be an incredibly challenging road to, repeat as NBA champions. And I've said this from day one too, what I'm cheering for to happen, I want them to tie or break the Bulls record for the regular season wins and losses, and then I want them to not win the championship. I don't care when they lose, I just want them to not win the championship. Pull a New England Patriots, basically. But to be fair and stay true, if they are to defeat the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Cavaliers, all in series in this playoffs, and all those teams are, healthy, have their key components at least, maybe not 100% healthy, but they're, it's not an excuse, we'll put it that way, it's not an acceptable excuse, the injury report for the other team, if they can just do that, regardless of where they stand with the Bulls record, if they break it or not, if they can do that, I will say that this current Warriors team and organization is a dynasty. It's one of the best I've ever seen, and it's an all-time great. Maybe not the all-time great, but an all-time great, worthy of being talked about in that discussion. And then especially if they were to do that in the playoffs following tying or breaking the Bulls' season win record of 72, then I don't see how anybody, if they tie or break that record, take out the Thunder, take out the Spurs, take out the Cavs, all at full strength, win their second back-to-back title, then I don't see how anyone could deny them their greatness or their rightful place in all-time basketball lore, and I most certainly would not be someone to do that, and neither should you be. But let's move on to my Timberwolves here just real quick, and then we'll be done with Balls Dribble. All right, so since the last time we talked, the Timberwolves have lost by 15 points in Milwaukee. They have beat the Nets by 14 points at home. They lost to the Hornets by 5 points in Nolens. That was a tough one. I was really kind of hoping we'd pull that one out. I watched a fair amount of that one. And then the other night, in what little bit I could stomach to watch, on Tuesday night here this week, the Timberwolves were blown out at home by the Greg Popovich-less, Tony Parker-less, Manu Ginobili-less, and Tim Duncan-less San Antonio Spurs by a score of 116-91. OMG, are you kidding me? And it doesn't get any easier. Our next game is here Friday night on the road against the Oklahoma City Thunder. look for Westbrook to have